band does, and a record that obviously is like The Rising or fuller arrangements, and I suppose it is. It's kind of like a correct. Somebody called an interviewer called it a corrective, and perhaps that's what it is, because it allows me to get very, very personal, go towards the things that I'm most obsessed about in certain ways. You know, those kinds of characters, which I feel very strongly about, and you know, so it's a balance to the, you know, to sort of the big thing that happens with the band. You know, I wouldn't want to do that constantly. You know, I think partly because that type of fame does two things simultaneously. It rises you up, but it also diminishes you, because I think people can get a simplified idea of what you're about. And when I move into this kind of writing and this kind of show, I think it brings. It's a very close human experience, and so it sort of re-injects my work with its complexity and with its complexity, you know, and so it's something that it's valuable to be able to do both things. I love what happens, you know, out in front of an audience with the band, but I'd feel incomplete if I wasn't able to sort of write these kinds of songs and tell these kinds of stories. You know, I think in some ways there's some of the things that I feel closest to and most personal about, and most committed to in many ways.
Once I thought I knew everything I needed to know about you, your sweet whisper, your tender touch, but I didn't really know that much. Joke's on me, but it's gonna be okay if I can just get through this lonesome day. Hills brewing, dark sun's on the rise. Storm will blow through by and by. Houses on fire, vipers in the grass. A little revenge in this too shall pass. This too shall pass, darling. Yeah, I'm gonna pray. Right now, all I got's this lonesome day.
I don't think songwriting has to be topical, or it has to be political for it to be effective, or you know, you're always taking a risk when you move in that area, because those are hard songs to write without becoming polemic or rhetorical and ideological. You know, so it's I always search for a very human circumstance, and I try to let the music in the song have its political implications, which is what I tried to do on Devils and Dust, you know. And you know, other songs come up as they may. You know, this was just a collection of songs I had at that particular moment, and we'll see which ones pan out for the next record.
Okay. People have always tried to connect you with politics, which angered you. Now you did it yourself during the campaign.
Well, that's something that just had to be done. I mean, things were kind of taking a turn for the worse, and then the worse again, and there's been a lot of very undemocratic forces unleashed in the United States over the past 4 or 5 years, and so you reached a point where you felt like, okay, this is where the whatever credibility I've built up over the years, this is the time to expend some of it, and that's what we tried to do. You know, it was close, but it didn't happen. You know, so we'll see what happens. But there were too many things that were very angering and outrageous, and the way that we got into the war, the curtailing of the civil rights through parts of the Patriot Act. There were just a lot of things that were. I don't remember since I was a very, very young man, and certain things I've never quite experienced at all, you know. So it was it was a moment when I think me and a lot of other of my fellow musicians and artists felt it was step forward and see if we could do anything about it.
What was the point for you when you decided, okay, I'm going to stand up?
There wasn't a single moment, you know. It was just a series of things. I think that the way I believe the country was misled into Iraq and done cynically so, you know, and so that had a lot to do with it. I lived through the Vietnam War when I was a kid, and that just had a lot to do with it, I think. But there were other things also, you know, a lot of economic policies, and it's always a struggle for the people left behind in the States, and you know, the burden of it was really across the boards. It wasn't just the Iraq War. It was the general policy of the administration also. So,
are you still an angry man?
I don't know. You know, I think it's a good time to be angry. You know, it's and you should always be angry about something. Otherwise, you're not doing your job as citizen, I believe. You know, but the thing is, you know, you want to channel that conscience and, you know, into something creative, whatever it might be. It could be just raising your family, or it's not necessarily art or music or film or you know, there's a lot of places you can put that kind of energy, you know. But yeah, it's a good time to be angry about something right now, certainly in the States, you know. But
still, the Vote for Change tour, it didn't have a result. Did you fail?
People voted, but they didn't change. So that was the problem, you know.
But seriously,
it was like,
do you see it as a personal failure?
No, it was an election, you know, and I threw my 2 cents in, and you know, I'm not going to change the course of U.S. history on my own, you know. As a songwriter, you know, I think you just try to join with your fellow citizens and take your place in you know, in that world, and do what you can, and you fight as hard as you can, and then the results are whatever they were, and then you pick yourself up again and you go back to trying to, you know, do your best to fight some other way, you know. It's the normal process, and I wish that it went the other way, but everybody was certainly depressed, and everyone was fallen, you know, after the election. But I don't know. I don't have the answers. You know, I think we have to wait and see. You know, I think there's the one thing. There was a very strong progressive base of voters who came together over the internet and over a variety of different organizations during the course of the election campaign. So I think there's more organization now. And times change, and times change everything. Right now, President Bush's rate, I believe, is the lowest he's ever had since he's been in office. I don't know what the results are going to be, you know. But, you know, that's the idea is you have to continue to ask the question, what now? And then pursue it as best as you can. So
what worries
that's
you
all
most,
you can do.
What worries you most in American politics at this moment?
I think there's been a very well done campaign of misinformation, you know, that proved to be quite effective, and also a disregard for history to a certain degree. You know, when I say things, there's undemocratic forces and there's un-American forces at play. That's what I think about. You know, it's like I don't remember a time in the States when I was alive, when you could be taken off the street and put into jail and without an attorney or your family notified and kept there for an undisclosed period of time. That's something that I've never experienced that before, you know, and so that's a very, very un-American and dangerous occurrence, you know, and plenty of people who were innocent have been swept up, you know, along the way, you know. So there's a lot of, you know, these things are just, they are loose there at the moment. And I think what a lot of the people in the progressive community are concerned about is how to stop it where it stands. And hey, everybody's trying to push back a little bit, and I think that will occur, but I don't know. You don't know until You know, I have no idea how it's going to play out. But all you can do is do what you can. You know, you write your music, you sing your songs, you take your